Chosen one, stop. Do not scroll past this moment. Listen carefully. Something is unfolding around you right now, and if you rush away, you may miss the very signal placed on your path for this exact hour. You felt it before you arrived here, the strange weight in your chest, the quiet tension that has been following you through ordinary moments, the feeling that something invisible has shifted, even though nothing around you looks different. This is not random. This is not noise. This is a summons. I am speaking to you because you have reached a moment many pass through without understanding, and when they miss it, the cycle begins again. But you were not brought here to miss it. You were brought here to see it. Chosen one, what you are feeling is not confusion, but awakening. Not chaos, but alignment. Not punishment, but protection. The heaviness that has surrounded your thoughts lately is not a sign that you are falling apart. It is a signal that something hidden has begun to move in your life. I see what you cannot see. I see the road ahead of you and the unseen checkpoints placed along your path. And right now, you are standing at one of them. That is why your spirit has been restless. That is why your mind keeps circling the same questions. Something inside you knows that a moment of decision is near, even if you cannot explain why. Many people reach this place and do not recognize it. They call it bad luck. They call it stress. They call it another frustrating week. But you are not like them. You are chosen, and chosen ones are not allowed to wander blindly forever. So listen closely, because what I am about to reveal is not small. It is the beginning of understanding why certain things in your life have suddenly felt different, why conversations have felt heavier, why small problems seem to carry strange emotional weight, why you have been pausing longer before reacting. These are not accidents. These are signals. The moment you are living through is a test hidden inside ordinary life. Not a loud test, not a dramatic test, a quiet one, a disguised one, the kind that reveals who you truly are when no one announces that you are being evaluated. This is how the most important transformations begin. They do not arrive with warnings. They arrive inside normal days, inside small choices, inside reactions that feel automatic. And that is exactly why they matter. Because the test does not measure what you say when you are prepared. It measures what you do when you think nothing important is happening. Chosen one, there is something I must tell you clearly. The discomfort you have been feeling recently is not a sign that you are losing your direction. It is a sign that you are approaching a new one. You thought the tension meant something was wrong, but I tell you the truth now. It is not something breaking. It is something shifting. When a path begins to change, the spirit notices before the mind understands. That quiet awareness inside you is not anxiety. It is discernment waking up. I am allowing you to feel the weight of this moment so you will slow down enough to see it. Because this moment matters more than it appears. A door is standing in front of you right now. Not a physical door, a spiritual one. And doors like this do not open with force. They open with awareness. That is why you were stopped. That is why this message reached you. Because if you walked past this moment unaware, the same lessons would return again later, wearing different faces. Not because you are failing, but because what must be learned cannot be skipped. Chosen one, hear this carefully. What feels like pressure is actually preparation. What feels like delay is actually positioning. What feels like confusion is actually revelation beginning to surface. I know the thoughts that have crossed your mind recently. You wondered why certain things suddenly feel harder, why people seem distant, why small situations trigger deeper emotions than before. You questioned whether you were doing something wrong. You questioned whether you were losing your balance. But you are not losing your balance. You are being slowed down. Because when a soul approaches a turning point, speed becomes dangerous. You must see clearly before you move forward. This is why the atmosphere around you has shifted. The noise around you has changed. Certain interactions feel heavier than they used to. Certain environments no longer feel comfortable the way they once did. You may not have noticed it fully yet, but your spirit already knows. Something has begun separating you from what cannot follow you into your next season. And that separation always begins quietly. Not with explosions, but with subtle tension. Not with dramatic endings, but with small signals that something is out of alignment. Do not mistake this process for rejection. Do not mistake it for loss. This is not rejection, but redirection. Not abandonment, but refinement. Not punishment, but protection. I am guiding you away from paths that once seemed normal, because they no longer match the future that is waiting for you. But here is the part many people misunderstand. The checkpoint you are standing at does not judge your perfection. It reveals your awareness. The test, hidden inside this moment, is not asking you to become someone new overnight. It is asking you to recognize what is happening around you right now. Awareness is the first key, because once you see the moment clearly, your response begins to change. And when your response changes, your path changes. Chosen one, look back at the last few days of your life. Look at the conversations that felt slightly tense, the decisions that felt strangely important, even though they seemed small. The pauses that happened inside your thoughts before you reacted. Those were signals, quiet ones, but real ones. I allowed those moments to appear so you would begin noticing something deeper than surface events. You are not just moving through ordinary time, you are moving through preparation. The world may see normal days, but I see the shaping of your next chapter. And shaping always begins with awareness. That is why I am speaking now, because the chosen one must not sleep through the moment that could change the direction of their path. If you listen carefully, you will begin to notice something new. The same situations that once controlled your reactions are starting to feel different. The same pressures that once pushed you into immediate responses are now giving you a moment of pause. That pause is not weakness. That pause is power awakening. It is the space where a new response can be born. And when that response changes, the future changes with it. You are not being tested because you are unworthy. You are being tested because you are ready. A checkpoint does not appear at the beginning of the road. It appears when the traveler has walked far enough to approach the next level. You have walked farther than you realize. You have grown more than you remember. The lessons you thought were meaningless were shaping your perception the entire time. And now you stand at a moment where that growth is about to reveal itself. So do not rush past this feeling. Do not silence the quiet voice telling you that something important is happening. This moment matters, not because it is loud, but because it is precise. The path ahead of you is being adjusted even now, and the awareness you gain today will determine whether the door in front of you opens now or waits for another cycle to bring you back here again. Stay alert, chosen one, because this moment is not random. It is the beginning of recognition, and recognition is the first step toward transformation. Chapter 2. The pattern you thought was bad luck. You have noticed it before, chosen one. Not once, not twice. Many times, the same type of disappointment arriving through different faces, the same kind of tension appearing in different places. Different people, different days, yet the feeling underneath it all feels strangely familiar. At first, you called it coincidence. Later, you called it bad luck. Some days you wondered if the world was simply unfair. But deep inside you, a quiet question kept returning. Why does this keep happening? Why do the same kinds of situations find me again and again? Listen carefully now. What you thought was bad luck was never random. What you thought was chaos was actually a pattern, and patterns do not appear without purpose. I allowed those patterns to repeat because repetition reveals what the mind refuses to see the first time. The first time you experience something, it feels unexpected. The second time, it feels frustrating. The third time, it begins to feel personal. But by the fourth and fifth time, the pattern becomes undeniable. That is the moment awareness begins to wake up. Chosen one, the cycles you have experienced were not traps meant to destroy you. They were mirrors meant to reveal something. Each repetition carried a lesson hidden beneath the surface of the situation. But lessons hidden beneath emotion are easy to miss, because when frustration rises, clarity disappears. When disappointment arrives, the mind focuses on the pain instead of the meaning behind it. That is how cycles survive. They survive inside emotional fog. Think about the moments when you walked away from a situation feeling drained. Not because something terrible happened, but because the outcome felt strangely familiar. A conversation that turned into misunderstanding. A promise that slowly faded. An opportunity that looked hopeful but ended the same way others had ended before. You told yourself it was just another unfortunate moment, but something deeper was happening. You were standing inside a loop designed to reveal a truth that had not yet been fully recognized. And here is the part most people never understand. The cycle was never about the other people, not about their behavior, not about their choices. The cycle was about your awareness. Every repeating pattern carries a question hidden inside it, not a question spoken aloud, a question revealed through experience. The question is simple but powerful. Will you respond the same way again? Or will you see what you could not see before? Many people never recognize this moment. They move through life reacting the same way each time the pattern returns. They blame circumstances. They blame other people. They blame themselves. But they never pause long enough to observe the pattern itself. And because they never see it, the cycle quietly resets again and again and again. But something different is happening now. You are beginning to notice. That small realization inside your mind is not accidental. Awareness is the first crack in the wall of repetition. Once you begin to see the pattern begins to lose its power. Because cycles depend on blindness. They depend on unconscious reactions. They depend on the mind moving so quickly that it never asks deeper questions. But awareness slows everything down. Awareness creates space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where transformation begins. I did not allow those patterns to repeat because you were failing. I allowed them to repeat because you were being refined. Each experience sharpened your discernment. Each disappointment revealed something about what you should no longer tolerate. Each confusing moment trained your intuition to recognize signals you once ignored. You thought you were simply enduring difficult experiences, but you were actually learning to see more clearly. Chosen one, look back now with honest eyes. The first time the pattern appeared in your life, you responded one way. The second time, maybe the same way again. But the third time, something felt different. Maybe you hesitated before answering. Maybe you questioned what you once accepted without thought. Maybe you sensed something beneath the surface that others did not notice. Those moments were not small. They were signs that your perception was evolving. The cycle was beginning to reveal its shape. And when a pattern becomes visible, something extraordinary happens. The chosen one realizes that repetition is not destiny. It is instruction. Not punishment, but preparation. Not a curse, but a classroom. Every loop contains the possibility of graduation. But graduation happens only when awareness becomes stronger than habit. Habit is powerful. Habit moves quickly. Habit responds without thinking. But awareness moves differently. Awareness pauses. Awareness observes. Awareness asks questions before reacting. And that change in rhythm is enough to alter the entire direction of the path. The pattern that once felt unavoidable begins to weaken the moment you stop participating in it unconsciously. This is why you feel different now when familiar situations appear. Something inside you pauses. Something inside you watches carefully. You sense that the moment carries more meaning than it once did. That is not anxiety. That is discernment. Discernment is the quiet voice that recognizes patterns before they fully unfold. It is the ability to see where a road leads before walking too far down it. And you did not develop that ability by accident. It was built through every experience you once called unfortunate. Through every moment you once wished had never happened. Those moments were sharpening your vision the entire time. Chosen one, hear this clearly. The fact that you can now see the pattern means you are standing at the edge of breaking it. Most people live their entire lives inside loops they never recognize.
They repeat the same emotional reactions, the same decisions, the same misunderstandings, wondering why the scenery changes, but the outcome never does. But you are no longer asleep inside the cycle. You are watching it, observing it, studying it. And once a pattern is seen clearly, it can no longer control the path the way it once did. Because now, you understand something powerful. The cycle was never permanent. It was waiting for awareness. And awareness has finally arrived. This moment you are living in right now is different from the ones before. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. The same types of situations may still appear, but you are no longer the same person standing inside them. Your perception is sharper. Your instincts are clearer. Your patience is stronger than before. And that change within you is the beginning of freedom from repetition. The pattern that once controlled your journey is beginning to lose its hold. Not through force, not through struggle, but through understanding. And understanding is the quiet power that breaks cycles forever. Chapter 3. The Disguise. Why the test does not look like a test. You expected the test to arrive with warning. You expected something dramatic, something obvious, a loud moment, a clear sign. But that is not how the most important tests appear, Chosen One. The moments that shape destiny rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, hidden inside ordinary hours. A conversation, a decision, a reaction that seems small at first. And because it looks small, many people overlook it. That is the disguise. The test is not hidden to confuse you. It is hidden to reveal you. If every test arrived with a trumpet and a spotlight, people would prepare performances instead of revealing their true responses. They would act differently because they knew they were being measured. But hidden tests do something deeper. They show what lives inside the heart when no one thinks the moment matters. This is why the situations you face right now feel ordinary on the surface. Nothing dramatic, no loud announcement, just small moments that carry unexpected emotional weight. A sentence someone speaks, a delay that interrupts your plan, a choice that asks for patience when you feel urgency. These are not random inconveniences. They are disguised crossroads, and crossroads are where character reveals itself. Chosen One,
Think carefully about the last few situations that unsettled you. Not the biggest events, the small ones. The brief interactions that left you thinking longer than expected. The tiny moments where you almost reacted the way you always have. Those were not accidents. Those were the doors of the test appearing quietly in your day. I place these moments where the mind least expects them, not in chaos, but in normality, not in crisis, but in routine. Because when the moment looks ordinary, the response becomes honest, and honest responses reveal whether growth has truly taken root. Many people believe transformation happens in dramatic moments of decision. They imagine a single powerful event where everything changes. But real transformation rarely works that way. Real transformation is revealed through repeated, ordinary choices. Through patience when irritation rises. Through silence when pride demands a response. Through calm when pressure invites reaction. These moments may look small to the outside world, but spiritually, they carry enormous weight. Because small choices repeated over time reshape the entire direction of a life. That is why the test is disguised. It waits inside daily moments that appear insignificant. The mind says, "This is nothing," but the spirit whispers, "Pay attention." Those who ignore the whisper pass through the moment unchanged. They react the way they always have. The cycle continues. The lesson returns again later wearing a different mask. But those who recognize the whisper pause. They observe the moment more carefully.
They sense that something deeper is unfolding beneath the surface. That pause is the beginning of discernment. Discernment is the light that reveals what disguise is trying to hide. You may not fully understand the meaning of each moment yet. That is normal. Hidden tests are designed to be subtle. Their purpose is not immediate understanding. Their purpose is awareness. When awareness grows, perception changes. Suddenly, you notice things you once ignored. The tone behind someone's words, the emotional pull inside certain situations, the difference between peace and pressure. These signals were always present, but now your spirit is becoming sensitive enough to notice them. This sensitivity is not weakness, it is sharpening vision. Imagine walking through a forest at night with no light. Everything feels confusing. Every shadow looks the same. But once light appears, details emerge. Paths become visible, obstacles become clear. The forest itself has not changed, only your ability to see it has changed. That is what discernment does to your life. The world may still look ordinary to others, but to you, subtle signals are becoming visible. You notice when something feels aligned. You notice when something feels forced. You notice when peace is present and when tension quietly grows beneath the surface. This awareness is the beginning of spiritual sight, and spiritual sight reveals the disguised moments where the test is waiting. Do not misunderstand this process. The disguise is not meant to trick you. It is meant to strengthen you. Strength built in quiet moments becomes stable. Strength built through dramatic performances fades quickly. But when wisdom grows through everyday choices, it becomes part of who you are. That is the kind of strength being formed inside you now. You are learning to recognize meaning where others see randomness. You are learning to pause where others react instantly. You are learning to observe before responding. And observation changes everything. Because once you observe a moment clearly, you gain the power to choose your response intentionally. Reaction is automatic. Reaction is driven by habit. But response is different. Response is chosen. Response is guided by awareness. And awareness is exactly what these hidden moments are developing inside you. Each disguised situation is training your spirit to slow down and see deeper than appearances. A simple disagreement becomes a mirror revealing emotional patterns. A small delay becomes an invitation to practice patience. An uncomfortable silence becomes a test of inner stability. These moments look ordinary, but they are quietly shaping the future. Chosen one, the reason you feel different now when these situations appear is because your perception is changing. The disguise is still present, but you are beginning to see through it. You sense when a moment carries more weight than it appears to hold. You feel the subtle invitation to choose differently. That awareness means something inside you has already shifted, not because the world changed, but because your understanding has grown. And growth transforms the way hidden tests reveal themselves. What once felt confusing now feels instructive. What once felt frustrating now feels revealing. What once felt random now begins to form a pattern of meaning. This is the quiet transformation unfolding inside you. You are learning to see beyond the surface of events. And once that vision awakens, disguised tests lose their invisibility. They begin to stand out like faint lights along the path. You recognize the moment before it fully unfolds. You sense the crossroads before the decision arrives. That awareness changes the way you walk forward. The disguise no longer controls the outcome, because now you know something many never discover. The most important moments in life rarely look important when they arrive, but those who recognize them shape the direction of everything that follows. And you, chosen one, are beginning to recognize them now. Chapter 4. The emotional trigger that activates the test. The test does not begin with a loud signal. It begins with a feeling. A sudden tightening inside your chest, a spark of irritation, a wave of doubt. A moment where your thoughts start racing faster than your wisdom. That is where the test truly begins, chosen one. Not in the situation itself, but in the emotion it awakens. You once believed these emotions were interruptions, obstacles, signs that something around you was wrong. But the truth is different. These emotional surges are indicators, signals rising from deep within you, pointing directly toward the place where growth is ready to happen. Think about the moments when frustration appears quickly, the conversation that suddenly touches a sensitive nerve, the situation where you feel the urge to defend yourself before the other person has even finished speaking, the moment where impatience begins pushing your thoughts faster and faster. These moments are not accidents. They are pressure points, and pressure points reveal where transformation must occur. Imagine a lock hidden inside your spirit. The key does not appear through comfort. The key appears through pressure. Pressure reveals the places that still react automatically, and automatic reactions are the exact places where the test lives. You see, the test is never about the event itself. It is about the response the event awakens inside you. Two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes. One reacts with anger. The other responds with calm observation. One feels attacked. The other sees information. One escalates conflict. The other diffuses it with patience. The situation was identical, but the internal response changed the entire direction of what followed. This is why emotional triggers matter so much. They reveal the gap between instinct and awareness. Instinct moves quickly. Instinct protects pride. Instinct defends territory. Instinct reacts before thinking. But awareness moves differently. Awareness pauses. Awareness listens. Awareness allows the emotion to rise without immediately surrendering to it. That pause is powerful. That pause is where the test unfolds.
Because in that small space between emotion and reaction, a new response becomes possible. Chosen one. The emotions that rise inside you are not enemies. They are signals. Anger can reveal boundaries that need to be strengthened. Discomfort can reveal environments that no longer align with your spirit. Doubt can reveal places where deeper trust must grow. These emotions are not punishments. They are messengers. But messengers are only helpful when their message is understood. Many people receive the signal, but never read the message. They feel the emotion and immediately react. The reaction becomes the habit becomes the pattern, and the pattern becomes the cycle they believe they cannot escape. But the chosen one learns something different. The chosen one learns to observe the signal before responding to it. When irritation appears, you begin asking a deeper question. What is this moment revealing? When insecurity whispers, you pause long enough to examine the thought behind the feeling. When impatience pushes you forward, you slow down instead of rushing ahead. These small shifts are not weakness. They are mastery beginning to form. Emotional mastery does not mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being controlled by the first impulse that appears. It means you allow emotion to pass through your awareness without letting it seize the steering wheel of your actions. This is the discipline that transforms hidden tests into moments of growth. Because when emotion appears and you remain steady, something extraordinary happens. The test loses its control.
The situation that once pushed you into immediate reaction suddenly loses its power. The emotional wave still rises, but you are no longer carried away by it. Instead, you stand still and watch it move through you. That calm observation changes everything. It turns reaction into choice, and choice is the doorway to transformation. Consider how many past moments in your life were shaped by quick reactions. Words spoken too quickly, decisions made in the heat of frustration, actions taken before clarity had time to arrive. Those moments felt powerful in the instant they occurred. But afterward, they often left a trail of confusion or regret. Not because you intended harm, but because reaction moves faster than wisdom. Now something different is happening within you. The same emotions may still appear, but your relationship with them is changing. You are beginning to see them as signals instead of commands. The feeling still rises, but you no longer obey it instantly. You observe it, you examine it, you allow it to pass through your awareness like a cloud crossing the sky. This shift may feel subtle, but it is profound. Because the moment you stop reacting automatically, you interrupt the pattern that once controlled the outcome. The emotional trigger still appears, the situation still unfolds, but the result changes because your response has changed. And once the response changes, the cycle begins to weaken. Chosen one, this is the quiet training happening inside your life right now. You are being taught how to remain steady when pressure appears, how to maintain clarity when emotions rise, how to respond with wisdom instead of reflex. These lessons may not look dramatic to the outside world, but internally, they are reshaping the architecture of your mind and spirit. Each moment of patience strengthens your inner stability. Each moment of calm observation sharpens your discernment. Each moment where you choose wisdom over impulse moves you closer to freedom from old patterns. This is why the emotional trigger is such an important part of the test. It reveals whether awareness has truly taken root. Anyone can speak about growth during peaceful moments, but true growth reveals itself when emotion rises and the mind remains clear. That clarity is beginning to form within you now. The next time irritation appears, you will notice something different. A quiet voice reminding you to pause. The next time doubt whispers, you will feel the invitation to observe the thought rather than believe it immediately.
The next time pressure builds, you will sense that the moment carries an opportunity to respond differently. That awareness is the signal that transformation is already unfolding. You are not learning to avoid emotion. You are learning to move through it without losing yourself. And that skill is the key that unlocks the next stage of your path. Because once emotional reactions lose their control, the hidden tests that once shaped your journey begin to lose their power over your future. Chapter 5. The silent mirrors around you. The test does not arrive alone. It rarely stands in front of you by itself. Instead, it walks toward you wearing the faces of people already in your life. This surprises many chosen ones. They expect the challenge to come from strangers or distant circumstances. But the truth is different. The deepest lessons often appear through familiar voices, through conversations you thought were ordinary, through relationships you believed you understood. These people are not placed around you as enemies. They are mirrors, quiet mirrors, reflecting parts of your inner world that are ready to change. A mirror does not create the reflection. It simply reveals what already exists. And that is exactly what these interactions are doing. Think carefully about certain individuals whose presence seems to stir something inside you. Sometimes it is irritation. Sometimes it is defensiveness. Sometimes it is the strange feeling that you must prove yourself. You may have wondered why these reactions appear so quickly around certain people, why their words seem heavier than others, why their presence awakens emotions you thought were under control. The answer is simple, but powerful. They are mirrors placed in your environment so that hidden patterns become visible. Without mirrors, growth would remain invisible. You would move through life believing everything inside you was already balanced. But reflection reveals what still needs attention. Reflection exposes the places where patience must deepen, where boundaries must strengthen, where confidence must become steady rather than fragile. This is why certain relationships feel tense during periods of transformation, not because conflict is destined, but because growth changes the way energy moves between people. The version of you that once fit comfortably inside those dynamics is slowly evolving. And when one person grows, the relationship itself begins to shift. Some people will sense that change even before you fully understand it yourself. They may react with confusion, with subtle resistance, with attempts to pull you back toward familiar patterns. This is not always intentional. Many do it unconsciously. They are responding to the version of you they have always known. But the chosen one is not meant to remain the same forever. Growth reshapes the atmosphere around you. Imagine a circle drawn in sand. At first, many people stand comfortably inside it. The space feels familiar, predictable. But when your awareness expands, the circle itself begins to change. It becomes clearer, stronger, more defined. And suddenly, some people no longer stand inside it the same way they once did. This is not rejection. This is refinement. Not abandonment, but alignment. When your inner stability strengthens, the environment around you reorganizes itself naturally. Some relationships deepen because they resonate with your growth. Others grow distant because they were built on patterns that no longer serve you. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. You may question whether something is wrong, whether you should try harder to restore the old balance. But listen carefully now. Not every connection is meant to travel every chapter of your journey. Some people are companions for a season of learning. Others are companions for a season of building. And some are companions only long enough to reveal a truth you needed to see. Their presence fulfilled its purpose the moment the reflection became clear. Chosen one, the mirrors around you are not there to trap you. They are there to awaken awareness. When someone's behavior triggers impatience, the mirror reveals where patience is still growing. When someone challenges your confidence, the mirror reveals where inner security must deepen. When someone questions your choices, the mirror reveals whether your conviction is rooted firmly or still searching for approval. These reflections are valuable because they illuminate what cannot always be seen alone. Without mirrors, blind spots remain hidden. With mirrors, clarity emerges. But clarity requires courage, because once you see the reflection, you must decide how to respond. Some people respond by blaming the mirror. They reject the reflection and refuse to examine what it reveals. In doing so, they protect the pattern instead of transforming it. But the chosen one responds differently. The chosen one pauses, observes, learns from what the reflection reveals. This does not mean you accept harmful behavior or ignore disrespect. Discernment still guides your boundaries, but you also recognize the deeper lesson hidden beneath the interaction. You recognize that every mirror carries information, and information leads to growth.
As your awareness deepens, something subtle begins to happen. The mirrors that once triggered strong reactions begin losing their power. Conversations that once stirred tension become easier to navigate. Situations that once drained your energy begin to feel manageable. This shift is not because others suddenly change. It is because you have changed. Your response becomes steadier. Your presence becomes calmer. Your boundaries become clearer. And when those changes take root, the environment begins adjusting around them. Some people naturally move closer to your new level of stability. Others quietly drift away because the old dynamic no longer exists. Both outcomes serve the same purpose: alignment. Alignment is the quiet process through which your external world begins matching the internal growth taking place within you. The mirrors around you were never permanent fixtures. They were instruments of awareness, tools that helped reveal what was ready to evolve. And once their purpose is fulfilled, the reflections they once provided become less necessary. This is the quiet refinement of your circle, not forced separation, not dramatic endings, just a gradual shift where clarity replaces confusion. The chosen one begins to recognize who brings peace into the atmosphere and who brings unnecessary turbulence. You begin choosing presence over pressure, alignment over obligation, understanding over reaction. And as this clarity strengthens, your environment becomes calmer, lighter, more intentional. The mirrors did their work. They revealed what needed to be seen. They exposed patterns that once operated unseen. And through those reflections, your awareness expanded. Chosen one, the people around you are part of the classroom of your transformation. Not every lesson arrives through words. Many arrive through interaction, through reflection, through the quiet mirrors that reveal who you are becoming. And the more clearly you see those reflections, the more confidently you step forward into the version of yourself that no longer depends on the approval of the old circle. Chapter 6. The moment the cycle usually resets. There is a moment most people never notice. A quiet second, a narrow doorway in time. It appears just before the old pattern takes control again. This is the moment where cycles restart, not with noise, not with dramatic collapse, with a single, familiar reaction. Chosen one, listen carefully. The reset rarely looks dangerous. It feels comfortable, familiar, almost automatic. A situation appears, a tone in someone's voice, a sudden misunderstanding, and within seconds, your mind begins following the same road it has walked many times before. Defend yourself, prove your point, chase the explanation, doubt your value, accept what you once accepted just to avoid tension.
These reactions feel natural because they are old pathways built through repetition. Each time the reaction occurred in the past, the path became easier to travel again. Imagine a trail through tall grass. Walk it once, and the grass bends slightly. Walk it again, and the path becomes clearer. Walk it enough times, and the trail appears permanent. That is how cycles are built. Not through one decision, but through repeated reactions that carve invisible trails through the mind. The moment the trail appears again, the body remembers the direction. The words rise quickly. The emotions push forward. And before awareness can speak, the old path is chosen again. That is the reset. But here is the truth many never realize. The reset is not forced. The reset is invited through unconscious repetition. Every cycle survives because the same response appears when the pressure returns. The situation changes faces. The location changes. The people change. But the response remains the same. And that single familiar reaction quietly restarts the entire lesson.
This is why cycles feel endless to those who cannot see the moment where the reset happens. They believe the world keeps bringing the same problems. They believe fate is repeating the same story. But the story is not repeating itself. The response is. And the response is the key that determines whether the cycle continues or ends. Chosen one. The reset moment always carries a specific feeling. A sudden rush inside your mind. A tightening urgency that tells you to act quickly, to speak quickly, to decide quickly. It whispers that waiting will make things worse, that patience will cost you something, that silence will weaken your position. But that whisper is not wisdom. It is habit asking to take control again. Habit hates stillness. Habit moves fast because speed prevents awareness from interfering. But awareness moves differently. Awareness pauses. Awareness watches the moment instead of rushing through it. That pause is where the reset can be interrupted. Imagine standing at a crossroads where two roads appear. One road is wide and familiar. You have walked it many times. You know every turn, every outcome. The other road looks quieter, less traveled. It requires patience to see where it leads. Most people instinctively choose the familiar road because it feels safe. But the familiar road leads back into the same landscape every time. The quiet road leads somewhere new. The reset moment is that crossroads. It is the instant where the mind must choose between habit and awareness. Habit promises speed. Awareness invites clarity. Habit says react. Awareness says observe. Habit says defend. Awareness says understand. The chosen one learns to recognize this crossroads when it appears. Not after the reaction. Not after the words are spoken, but in the silent second before action begins. That second is small, but it is powerful. Because within that small pause lies the power to change the direction of the entire journey. If you react automatically, the trail through the grass becomes deeper again. The cycle strengthens. The lesson returns later wearing a different mask. But if you pause, something extraordinary happens. The old trail loses its pull. The moment becomes open instead of predetermined. You see possibilities that once remained invisible. A calmer response, a wiser decision, a choice that breaks the rhythm of the past. This is why awareness weakens cycles. Awareness interrupts the speed that habits depend on. It slows the mind long enough for a new path to appear. Chosen one. The moment you are approaching in your life right now may look familiar on the surface. The situation may resemble moments from your past. The emotions may feel similar. The pressure may rise the same way it has before. But there is one crucial difference this time.
You are no longer blind to the pattern. You can feel the crossroads forming before the decision arrives. That awareness changes everything. Because once the crossroads becomes visible, the path is no longer automatic. The moment stretches, the mind observes, the spirit listens, and inside that stillness, the possibility of a different outcome appears. This is the opportunity hidden inside the reset moment. Not punishment, but invitation. Not failure, but choice. The cycle does not demand repetition. It waits to see whether awareness has grown strong enough to choose differently. Every lesson you have experienced has been preparing you for this moment of recognition. Every past repetition sharpened your ability to notice the crossroads sooner. And now, you stand closer to that moment than ever before. The next time the pressure appears, the invitation will be quiet but clear. You will sense the familiar trail, asking to be followed again. But you will also sense the pause, the space where awareness can guide your steps somewhere new. That pause is the doorway out of repetition. And once the chosen one walks through that doorway even once, the old cycle begins to lose its power over the future. Chapter 7. The new response that breaks the pattern. There comes a moment when the old reaction rises, but you do not follow it. That moment is quiet, almost invisible, yet it carries enormous power. Because cycles do not break through force, they break through a new response. Chosen one, understand this clearly. The world does not change first. The situation does not change first. The people around you may behave exactly the way they always have. The pressure may look identical to the pressure you faced before. But the difference appears inside you. A small shift. A calm where urgency once lived. A silence where arguments once began. A steadiness where doubt once rushed forward. That is the moment the pattern begins to lose control. The mind expects you to move the same way. Habit prepares the same reaction. Words line up quickly. Emotions gather speed. But then something new happens. You pause. You breathe. You observe the moment instead of attacking it. This may feel strange at first. The old self was quick, immediate, ready to respond before the other person finished speaking. But the new response moves differently. It's slower, quieter, stronger. Because strength is not loud reaction. Strength is controlled direction. Imagine a river flowing through a canyon. For years, the water followed the same path carved through stone. Fast, predictable, powerful. But one day the current meets a new channel. A different direction opens. At first, the water hesitates. The old path still pulls strongly. But once the current moves even slightly into the new channel, the landscape begins to change. The old path weakens. The new one deepens. This is how transformation happens inside the mind. Not through dramatic rebellion against the past, but through small redirections that gradually reshape the flow of response. The first time you choose patience instead of argument, the current shifts. The first time you refuse to chase approval, the current shifts again. The first time you walk away from unnecessary conflict, the old river of reaction loses strength. These moments may look small from the outside, but spiritually they are monumental. Because each new response rewrites a pattern that may have controlled years of your life. Chosen one, breaking a cycle rarely feels like victory in the moment it happens. It often feels like restraint, like silence, like holding your ground when your emotions are pushing you to move. But restraint is not weakness. Restraint is mastery. Anyone can react. Reaction requires no awareness. But responding with clarity when emotion is rising, that requires power. True power, the kind that shapes destiny. Think about the moments when someone expected you to argue back. The tension was there. The atmosphere was ready for conflict. In the past, you might have stepped into the argument immediately. Words would have escalated. Energy would have spiraled. The familiar storm would have unfolded once again. But imagine choosing something different. Calm, measured words, or perhaps silence that refuses to feed the conflict. Suddenly, the expected storm dissolves before it even begins. That is the power of a new response. It interrupts the script everyone assumed would play out. The cycle depended on your participation. When your participation changes, the entire structure of the pattern collapses. This does not mean every moment will be easy. The pull of old reactions can feel strong. Habit is comfortable because it is familiar. The mind recognizes the old pathway immediately. But awareness reminds you that the familiar path leads to the same destination. The chosen one is not meant to walk the same road forever. The chosen one is meant to discover new terrain. And new terrain always requires a different step.
Each time you choose calm over impulse, you create a new pathway through the tall grass of the mind. At first, it is faint, uncertain, but repetition strengthens it. The second time becomes easier. The third time becomes natural. Eventually, the new response becomes your default direction, and when that happens, the old cycle no longer recognizes you. The situation may appear again, but the pattern cannot activate because the response it depended on no longer exists. That is the moment freedom begins. Not dramatic, not loud, quiet and powerful. Chosen one, many people believe breaking a cycle requires changing everything around them. They search for new environments, new people, new opportunities. But the deepest transformation happens internally first. When your response changes, the world begins adjusting around that new energy. Situations that once escalated now dissolve quickly. Conflicts that once drained your spirit lose their hold. Even the people around you begin responding differently because the rhythm of interaction has shifted. They expected the old version of you, the one who reacted instantly, the one who defended every challenge. But now they meet a presence that is steady instead of reactive, calm instead of impulsive, observant instead of emotional. That presence carries authority, not loud authority, quiet authority, the kind that cannot be easily shaken. This is the transformation unfolding inside you now, not through grand declarations, through disciplined responses, through moments where awareness guides your actions instead of impulse. Every time you choose this new response, the future reshapes itself slightly. The old loop weakens. The next chapter moves closer. Chosen one, understand the significance of this stage. You are no longer simply observing the cycle. You are actively rewriting it. Your responses are becoming tools of transformation. Your calm is becoming a shield.
Your patience is becoming a compass, guiding you toward a path that once felt impossible to reach. And the more you walk this new direction, the more the old patterns fade into distance. Not because they were destroyed by force, but because they no longer recognize the person you have become. Chapter 8. The invisible shift when you pass the test. The moment you pass a hidden test, the world does not explode with applause. No trumpet sounds, no crowd gathers to celebrate. Instead, something quieter happens, something subtle, something almost invisible to the eyes, but powerful beyond measure. Chosen one, when the test is passed, the atmosphere around your life begins to change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, gradually, like the sky becoming lighter before the sun appears. At first, you may not even recognize the shift, but you will feel it. The situations that once pulled you into tension begin losing their grip. The conversations that once drained your spirit start feeling lighter. The same environments that once stirred conflict suddenly feel neutral, almost powerless. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. When a cycle breaks inside you, the external world begins adjusting to match that internal change. Think of a lock that has been opened. Once the key turns, the door no longer resists the way it once did. The door does not fight you anymore because the mechanism that held it shut has already shifted. That is what happens when you pass the test hidden inside your responses. The mechanism of the cycle unlocks. Situations that once triggered a predictable chain of events suddenly stop producing the same outcome. The tension dissolves before it can grow. The misunderstanding fades before it becomes conflict. The emotional storms that once gathered quickly begin to scatter before they fully form. You may notice something unusual happening with certain people. Those who once triggered strong reactions in you may begin acting differently. Some may become calmer. Others may become distant. A few may simply fade from your daily interactions altogether. This is not manipulation. It is alignment unfolding. When your internal energy changes, the relationships around you reorganize themselves naturally. People who resonated with the old pattern may feel uncomfortable with your new steadiness, not because you rejected them, but because the dynamic that once connected you has changed. The script they expected you to follow no longer exists. The argument they expected never begins. The defense they anticipated never arrives. The emotional reaction they relied on disappears. And without that familiar response, the entire structure of the interaction collapses. Some people adjust to this new rhythm and grow alongside you. Others quietly drift away because their role was connected to a pattern that no longer lives within you. Both outcomes serve the same purpose. They clear the space around you. When a cycle ends, space opens for new experiences that were previously blocked by repetition. Imagine a room that was once crowded with noise and confusion. Now the room becomes quieter, simpler, easier to breathe in. That quiet is not emptiness. It is preparation. Because when old patterns dissolve, new paths become visible. Paths that once remained hidden behind layers of repeated reaction. You may also notice a shift inside your own mind. Situations that once occupied your thoughts for hours begin losing their importance. Where you once replayed conversations repeatedly, now you release them quickly. Where you once carried emotional weight long after a moment ended, now the weight fades faster. This is the sign of inner freedom growing stronger. The mind no longer clings to patterns it has already outgrown. Chosen one, the invisible shift does not just change your environment, it changes your perception of time and energy. Moments that once drained you begin passing without leaving a trace.
Decisions that once required endless overthinking become clearer. The fog that once surrounded certain situations begins to lift. You start seeing the path ahead with quiet certainty, not loud confidence, quiet clarity. This clarity is one of the greatest rewards of passing the test, because clarity allows movement. It allows you to walk forward without the hesitation created by repeated cycles. You begin trusting your discernment more deeply. You recognize signals earlier. You sense when something aligns and when it does not. The noise that once confused you becomes easier to filter out. As this awareness strengthens, another shift begins to unfold. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin appearing closer to your path. Doors that once remained closed begin opening quietly. Conversations lead to unexpected possibilities. Small moments reveal new directions. These changes are not random blessings falling from the sky.
They are the natural result of space being created in your life. Cycles once occupied that space. Repetition once filled your attention and energy. Now that those loops are dissolving, new movement becomes possible. The path ahead becomes clearer because you are no longer walking in circles. Chosen one. The invisible shift is the universe responding to the growth that has already taken place within you. It is not reward for perfection. It is confirmation of transformation. The calm responses you practiced, the patience you developed, the awareness you cultivated in moments of pressure, all of it reshaped the landscape of your life in ways that may only now be beginning to appear. And as these shifts continue unfolding, you will realize something profound. The test that once felt difficult was never meant to trap you. It was meant to prepare you. Not punishment, but preparation. Not obstruction, but redirection. Not delay, but alignment with a path that requires a stronger, steadier version of you. The invisible shift proves that the cycle is no longer controlling your steps. You are walking forward now with clarity that did not exist before, and the road ahead, once hidden by repetition, is finally beginning to open. Chapter 9. The Gate That Only Opens After the Test. There are doors that open easily, and there are doors that wait. Doors that remain closed, not because they are locked forever, but because the moment to open them has not yet arrived. Chosen one. Many paths in your life have felt delayed. Opportunities that seemed close, yet never fully arrived. Plans that almost worked, yet quietly dissolved before becoming real. You wondered why progress sometimes moved slowly, why certain blessings appeared just out of reach. But the truth is simpler than it seemed. Some doors are protected by a gate, not a gate of punishment, a gate of preparation. The test you've been walking through was never separate from your future. It was the gatekeeper standing in front of it. Imagine a bridge leading to a new land. The bridge is strong, the path is ready. But before crossing, the traveler must prove they can walk with balance. If someone crosses without balance, they fall before reaching the other side. The test exists so the traveler learns how to walk steadily before stepping onto the bridge. That is what has been happening in your life. The opportunities waiting ahead require stability, clarity, emotional strength. Without those qualities, the very things meant to bless your life could easily overwhelm it. Power without wisdom becomes chaos. Opportunity without discernment becomes distraction. Influence without inner balance becomes a burden rather than a gift. So the gate waits, not because you are unworthy, because you are being prepared to carry what lies beyond it. Chosen one. Every moment where you chose patience instead of reaction strengthened your balance. Every time you resisted repeating the old cycle, you strengthened the foundation beneath your future. You may have believed those quiet victories were small, but they were the exact training required to approach the gate. Think about a key being shaped inside a workshop. At first, it is rough metal, unformed. But with each careful cut, each adjustment, it becomes more precise. Slowly, it begins to match the shape of the lock it was meant to open. The tests you faced were shaping that key. Each decision refined its edges. Each moment of awareness aligned it more closely with the door waiting ahead. Now something remarkable begins to happen. The door that once seemed silent begins to respond. Opportunities appear where there was once resistance. Conversations begin, leading toward unexpected openings. Ideas that once felt distant now begin to feel reachable. This is not luck arriving suddenly. It is alignment revealing itself. The gate recognizes readiness. The bridge responds to balance. When preparation reaches the right level, the path that once felt blocked begins to unfold naturally. Chosen one, understand this clearly. The gate was never meant to keep you out. It was meant to ensure that when you entered the next season, you would stand strong within it. Imagine receiving everything you desired before learning how to manage it. The pressure would have been overwhelming, the responsibilities confusing, the opportunities unstable. But now, you are different. Your awareness is sharper, your reactions steadier, your discernment clearer. These qualities transform opportunity into something sustainable. This is why the gate is opening now. Not with noise, not with dramatic announcements. Quietly, gradually. The same way dawn appears on the horizon before the sun fully rises. The road ahead becomes visible step by step. One opportunity leads to another. One conversation reveals a new direction. One decision opens a path that once remained hidden. This unfolding does not happen through force. It happens through alignment. Because when the inner structure becomes stable, the outer path responds naturally. Chosen one. The gate recognizes when the traveler is ready. The patience you developed was not wasted time. The awareness you practiced was not invisible effort. Each moment prepared you for the weight of what lies ahead. And what lies ahead requires someone who no longer repeats old cycles. Someone who no longer reacts blindly to pressure. Someone who can walk forward with clarity, even when the path becomes complex. That person is the one you are becoming. The one who understands that preparation is part of destiny. The one who recognizes that delayed doors were not rejection, but protection. The one who sees that every test was shaping the key that now fits the lock. And as the gate begins to open, you will notice something important. The opportunities arriving ahead of you will feel different from those in the past. They will carry a sense of quiet alignment rather than forced urgency. They will feel stable rather than chaotic, clear rather than confusing. This is how you recognize that the path is no longer repeating old patterns. The gate has shifted. The bridge is visible. The next season is no longer waiting in the distance. It is beginning to meet you on the road you are walking now. And each step you take with awareness brings you closer to the moment when the door that once stood silent finally opens completely before you. Chapter 10. The Final Choice. Happening right now. The moment you have been approaching is not somewhere in the distant future. It is not hidden years ahead on a road you cannot yet see. It is much closer than that. In fact, chosen one, it is already unfolding. Quietly, subtly, inside the ordinary hours of your life. The final test rarely announces itself. It does not arrive wearing a crown or carrying a sign that says, "This is the moment." Instead, it appears the same way the earlier ones did. A familiar situation, a familiar pressure. A moment that feels strangely similar to something you have experienced before. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But deep inside, your spirit recognizes the weight of it. There is a pause, a quiet awareness, a feeling that this moment matters more than it appears to matter. That feeling is not imagination. It is recognition. The chosen one eventually reaches a moment where everything learned begins to converge. All the awareness you developed, all the patience you practiced, all the cycles you observed and slowly stepped away from, they gather together in one simple opportunity, the opportunity to choose differently. This is the final gate of the lesson. Not a complicated task, not a dramatic sacrifice, just a decision, a response. A moment where the familiar pressure appears and you must decide whether to walk the old road or the new one. The old road will look easy. It will feel comfortable. It will promise quick relief. The mind will recognize it immediately because you have walked it before. But the old road leads back into the circle, back into the landscape of repetition, back into the lessons you have already outgrown. The new road may feel unfamiliar, slower, quieter. It may require patience instead of reaction, stillness instead of urgency. But the new road leads forward, beyond the circle, beyond the cycle that once controlled your steps. Chosen one, the decision may appear small when it arrives. A single response in a conversation, a quiet refusal to repeat a behavior that once felt automatic, a calm reaction where emotion once ruled. These moments may look simple to the outside world, but spiritually they carry enormous weight. Because the direction of your future is often shaped by decisions that last only seconds. Think about a compass needle shifting slightly. The movement is small, almost invisible, but once the needle turns, the traveler who follows it will eventually reach a completely different destination. Your response in this moment is that compass. One direction leads back into repetition. The other leads into a path you have never fully experienced before. And here is the truth that matters most. You are not the same person who stood at this crossroads in the past. You have seen the pattern now. You have felt the cycles. You have practiced awareness in moments where reaction once controlled everything. That preparation was not meaningless. It was building the strength required to recognize this moment when it arrived. And now the moment is here. You may already sense it forming in your life. Perhaps there is a conversation approaching that feels strangely important. Perhaps there is a situation unfolding that reminds you of something from the past. Perhaps there is a choice quietly waiting in front of you right now. Do not rush through it. Do not dismiss the feeling that something significant is unfolding. Awareness has brought you here for a reason. The cycle ends the moment you choose the path that once felt impossible to walk. Not through force, not through struggle, through clarity, through calm understanding of who you have become. The old pattern depended on the version of you that reacted automatically. That version of you is fading. In its place stands someone more aware, more patient, more capable of seeing beyond the surface of a moment. This new awareness is the key that unlocks the future waiting ahead of you. Once the decision is made, the cycle loses its hold completely. The circle breaks. The road continues forward without bending back into the past. You will notice the shift when it happens, not as an explosion of excitement, but as a quiet certainty inside your spirit. A sense that something old has finally ended. A sense that the air feels lighter, that the path ahead feels clearer. This is the moment the traveler realizes the maze has been left behind. Not because the walls disappeared, but because the traveler finally found the exit. Chosen one, you were never meant to wander inside that maze forever. The tests were guiding you toward the doorway the entire time. Every lesson sharpened your awareness. Every cycle revealed a little more of the pattern. And every moment of patience prepared you for the decision that now stands in front of you. The future, waiting beyond this choice, does not require perfection. It requires awareness. The awareness you now carry. Walk forward with that awareness. Respond with the clarity you have earned. And when the moment arrives, choose the path that leads away from repetition and toward the life that has been patiently waiting for you to step into it.